Join the conversation on CapeTalk.
Last Thursday of the month already. That means it's time to talk style and design with Bianca Resnekov, who is with me on the line. And Bianca, always lovely to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Pippa. Hi, and hi to all the Cape Talk listeners.
So the cold front would have had us all covering up this morning, but we're going to start with a big uncovering today, Bianca. Martha Stewart appearing on the cover of Sports Illustrated at the age of 81, their oldest cover model ever. She snatched that title away from Elon Musk's mother, and the internet has had plenty to say about it, Bianca. Very interesting watching people's responses to the shoot.
So interesting. The internet has been divided on the matter. There were very clearly two schools of opinionistas online, both equally as judgy, I might add. Those who judge women who partake in plastic surgery and airbrushing as they age, the likes of Martha, Cher, Nicole Kidman, and Jennifer Lopez, and those who judge women who age more gracefully, so to speak, by welcoming their wrinkles in style, like Judi Dench and Helen Mirren, who was on the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival just this week with blue hair. Paulina Poroskova, who claims on her Instagram and on her recent Vogue cover that she represents women who are comfortable looking their age. She allows her hair to go grey, and she promotes eating cleanly and consciously and keeping flexible. But I mean, let's be honest here. It's easy for her to say she
started with a good framework.
As a supermodel, right? So these kind of moments prompt renewed discussion and awareness of beauty standards, ageism, and of course the ongoing investment of the media in youth culture. And it's not a new discussion. It keeps raising its head. I mean, recently, Nicole Kidman was on the cover of Perfect magazine, showing off her very ripped arms without a crease or a dimple in her face or body. I mean, she looked unbelievably impressive, but what message does this send out to real women of 55? That you have to hold on tight to your youth in order to be seen as beautiful, or just seen at all, relevant. Or maybe the message is, if you can afford it, you can stay young. So this also could be a problematic message. I find myself sitting a bit on the fence. I think that you should age as you feel comfortable, but I tend to admire the Helen Mirren camp more, as it promotes the notion that you're never too old to have fun with your style. And that the secret to remaining evolved, relevant, and youthful, so to speak, is just enjoying whatever you enjoy, and not putting rules on anything. So each to their own, having said that. So I'd love to hear what the Cape Talk listeners think.
I would too. I mean, you've touched on all of the mental cycles I spiraled through after I saw that shoot, Bianca. I also thought immediately of Paulina Poroskova's writings, because I'd read them, and the thing that made me so sad about that piece that she'd written was how she commented that she felt she was becoming increasingly invisible the older she got. And I sort of, when I read that, I thought, gosh, well, on one level that must be a relief after a lifetime of being gawked at and photographed and stalked because of who you were. I would think that would actually be quite nice to become invisible. But I totally take her point about women beyond a certain age just being seen or not being seen by a certain layer of society who sort of sees them as past their sell-by date. So I saw Martha, I spiraled through. Firstly, gosh, she looks amazing, and how fantastic that she's confident enough to do that. And then I went, I wonder how much that costs and how much work she's done.
But
and then I was checking myself on that. You
must have also thought, she looks so young. And, is that a compliment, really?
Is that, I mean, that's not what most 81-year-olds I look like, nowhere near it. And I would hate them to think that that's what they have to aspire to. Bianca, this is the beautiful thing about getting older, because the closer you get to 81, I think the less you start to care about these things. So maybe we're debating from a perspective of people who don't care.
Martha clearly doesn't care, but we do.
Well, I'd love to hear some input from the audience on this one. What did you make of that shoot? Did you go thumbs up, go Martha, you look amazing, and own every second of it? Or did it also give you pause for thought about what sort of standards of beauty we're setting that you're expected to look like that at the age of 81? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on voice note to 072 567 1567.
Yeah, so then something else that was going on last month or this just past month was the Met Gala at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And a trend that I picked off the red carpet that I thought that we as Cape Talk listeners could all adopt was the huge spotlight on shirting. The white shirt. So, of course, it was a tribute to the late Karl Lagerfeld. Yeah, so lots of black and white and androgynous dressing. There were 2 tributes to Lagerfeld's famous white cat, Choupette, who was said to be his muse, Jay Leno.
Jared Leto, yes.
Jared Leto, sorry. Yeah. He came as dressed as a cat, and Doja Cat came with a little prosthetic on her lip, looking like a cat. So that was pretty cool. But that's not the trend.
Thank you.
The trend is, don't worry, you don't have to look like a cat, but shirting. So shirts under dresses, shirt dresses. What Cara Delevingne was in a white shirt dress with a train behind her, making the casualness of a shirt quite black tie, which I thought was very clever. And then, as I said, a shirt underneath a sequined gown is a fun thing to add. Wearing a tie and a shirt and then an evening gown over. And then, of course, dress shirts for men. So the shirt had a real moment. I love shirts, so I really like that trend. And I think we'll see a lot of that on high street fashion as we go forward.
I thought the men completely outshone the women from the photographs I've seen. I mean, I won't pretend to understand some of the fashion I saw on that red carpet, Bianca, but the men looked incredible. There were some really, even guys who at first glance looked like they were in just a traditional tuxedo. You looked a little bit more closely. There was a level of detailing and from the lengths of the jackets to the styling on the buttons to embroidery on the jackets. I just love the fact that they're getting to have a little bit more fun on the red carpet.
I mean, we've discussed this a few times. This is happening more and more. And it's no longer just a trend. It's just accepted now that both genders are totally entitled to take the spotlight at any time. So I think that we're seeing it more and more is great. I love it that men are having fun with fashion and that it's not just, off bounds to them. Staying in New York, I wanted to draw our art appreciating listeners' attention to a solo exhibition happening in New York City. South African ceramic artist Zizipho Phoswa, who's Cape Town based, opened her solo show in New York this past week. It's called Pillars of the Nation, and there's a soundbite. I just hope that Obi's got it's the second soundbite that I sent you. It's a soundbite from the curators at Southern Guild. If we could play that.
Let's take a listen.
Hi, Bianca. It's Trevin McGowan here. Thanks so much for inviting me to talk about the amazing experience we've just had in New York. Cape Town-based ceramic artist Zizipho Phoswa is on an incredible trajectory in the international art world. And last week, Southern Guild opened her first solo exhibition in the US in collaboration with Gallery 56 in New York City. The gallery is owned by Lee Mandel, one of the most recognized architects in the country. The show is titled Insika Zesizwe, which means Pillars of the Nation. And it honors the strength and resilience of the rural matriarchs who raised Zizi. The series of monumental bronze sculptures were inspired by the practice of Mthwalo, which refers to the load African women balance on their heads while walking long distances in the rural areas. And, this load is both the physical load that they carry, but also the metaphorical and symbolic load that, that the women of this country bear. As part of the exhibition, we took photos of Zizi performing Mthwalo in the Eastern Cape, and it was incredible to see these very arresting, very South African images filling the gallery space from floor to ceiling, the windows, very visible from the busy street outside. And the building itself is the Herzog and de Meuron building, affectionately known as the Jenga Tower, which rests on the left-hand corner on an enormous mirror-polished Anish Kapoor sculpture. And the juxtaposition of Zizi's bronze, sometimes very textured, incredibly strong-colored patinas and highly polished surfaces, and then these very, very strong images all reflecting in the mirror surface of the Anish Kapoor was like really, really quite dynamic and invigorating visual thing to see. And the reception from New Yorkers was electrifying. We had an amazing opening night, but we also had very significant sales. Even as we were setting up the show, people were coming in off the street and really appreciating and understanding the works without knowing the artist or the gallery, and adding those works to their collection. So it was very successful from both the perspective of interacting and conversation and exchange, but also from from people appreciating and wanting the work. So the exhibition is on show at Gallery 56, which is at 240 Church Street, or the 56 Leonard Building in Tribeca, New York City, and it's on until the 29th of July. If you want to get a little insight into the exhibition, you can also go to southernguild.coza, our website, to watch the short documentary film we made with the artist about the collection and about her time back home and about the significance of her upbringing and the women who raised her, and how as women we need to honor and respect and admire and uphold each other. So I really recommend, if you get a second, it's a 3.5-minute movie and very worth watching. You can get a sense of our time in New York. Thanks so much.
Bianca, I've been on the Southern Guild website looking at those pots ever since you tipped me off about the story. They are so, so gorgeous. They are so textured. I mean, I would be the gallery's worst nightmare because you want to reach out and touch and feel them because they look like they've got sort of coils of fabric or of rope or of cattle horns on top, and they've just got such a strong textural element to them. They're absolutely gorgeous.
And I think also going onto the site and watching the movie is worth doing, because to know the background that these are structures that represent women that carry loads on their heads, a very common sight for us as South Africans, who, if you go into the rural areas or even if just, traveling around the city, you see women carrying loads on their heads. And here it's reflected so beautifully in her work, and obviously now being very well received in New York City. Very proud of this artist.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear that such buyers walking off the street saying, "I want that. What is it? Who is it?" I just love that.
Yes,
so well done, Zizipho Phoswa. Definitely enjoying a moment in New York City. Southernguild.coza is the website if you want to go and have a look at the pots and get a sense of these gorgeous clay and bronze works of art that have been on display in New York. Bianca, if we come a little bit closer to home, or a lot closer to home, we've got a big design week of our own just around the corner. I mean, Decorex, the 30th birthday edition, is coming up in June, and we've got the Cape Decor and Design Week happening from the 19th of June. Tell us a bit more.
So this is the first time that Cape Town and Johannesburg will be having a Decor and Design Week. It's planned to be a multi-destinational program of open showrooms, workshops, talks and networking events that provide the opportunity to go behind the scenes with some of Cape Town's most creative architects and designers. So keep your eyes on the press. I think I'm going to be standing in for you around that time, Pippa.
Yes.
So I'll also be interviewing lots of designers and letting our listeners know about what's happening.
Brilliant.
But here's a voice note from the Executive Creative Director of Decorex Africa to give us the lowdown on what's happening at the CCIC.
Mark your calendars for the highly anticipated Decorex Cape Town, South Africa's leading decor and design exhibition, which is returning to the CTICC from June the 22nd to the 25th. Visitors can immerse themselves in a world of inspiration as you explore the latest trends in decor, design and architecture. Discover and shop from an extensive selection of products and homeware, and be inspired by innovative ideas for home renovation and improvement. You'll be captivated by pioneering landscape concepts, kitchen designs, and bathroom showcases. Admire the craftsmanship of exquisite furniture creations. Additionally, don't miss out on the 4 days of enlightening talks and exhibitions that offer a glimpse into the future of design. Join us for the most highly anticipated decor event of the year and let your creativity thrive.
Thanks for the heads up on that, and I'm glad to hear you'll be lining up some interviews for that week in June when you're in for me, Bianca. I know we're going to be giving away some tickets to Decorex as well in the lead up to the event, so if you are planning on going, that's around the corner in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, Bianca, we've got time to move on back to the international space, and Angelina Jolie, I believe, launching her own fashion platform.
Yeah, it was announced online earlier this week that she's starting a fashion platform called Atelier Jolie.
Okay.
There's a sustainability element to the venture. It's not clear exactly what it is, but she's hinting that she's promising that the designs produced under the Atelier Jolie umbrella will be made exclusively from leftover, vintage, and dead stock fabrics.
Okay.
And that the company will also encourage people to upcycle and repair things that they already have in their wardrobes. As well as employing refugees as apprentices and for tailoring.
Wow.
So she hasn't released much more information about it, but it's going to be an interactive, kind of collaborative platform, and we'll keep our eye on it to make sure that we keep you updated.
I love the concept of repair, reuse, upcycle. I'm sure that's going to resonate all over the world, so keep us posted. All right, for our last story, Bianca, let's come right back home to Cape Town. And look, we've had several interviews on the show in our food segment with Chef Mmabatho Molefe, who has been doing such amazing things with Zulu-inspired fine dining at her restaurant, Emazulweni. She's been winning awards. She has won hearts and stomachs along the way. You want to talk, though, about the look of the restaurant more than the food being served in it.
Yeah, I thought that would be a nice angle. The restaurant was included on Condé Nast Traveler's 2023 hot list recently. Okay. It's super stylish. It features, as you say, Zulu-inspired fine dining. And it's recently relocated, still at the Maker's Landing, but to a new space at the cruise terminal, which has been reworked by a young interior designer, Walter Train, who was mentored by Clout Design, that we've spoken a lot about on our show. And I spoke to him earlier this week, and here's what he had to say.
Good afternoon to all the CapeTalk listeners. My name is Walter Train. I am a Cape Town-based interior designer. I run a company called Train Design Studio, and we were given the great opportunity to design the new Emazulweni restaurant. So for this restaurant, we drew our first point of inspiration was the environment that it's situated in, which is the harbour. We adopted the nautical colours and elements which are seen on the various cruise ships and ships that come in and out of the harbour, and we wanted to combine that with a strong African motif to create a space that we thought was bold and stood out in design, and a design that actually truly showed bravery. I would say one of my favorite pieces in the space is the viewing portal. We created a cool space around it for Mmabatho to display her cultural and personal items. So you would not only be viewing the cooking through the portal, but also her personal awards and trophies and items that showcase her Zulu culture, which we thought was quite cool to incorporate. And for me, it was really important as a designer to include the various local furniture designer makers and to use this opportunity to showcase our local talent in design and craftsmanship to the rest of the world. We were able to do this by working with Clout SA and their list of wonderful designer makers. So all in all, it was such a privilege to work with the amazing women that I did on this project, from the likes of Tracy Lee Lynch, who runs the Clout SA initiative, Hanari and Jenny Ward from Studio H, and as well as Mmabatho, who is doing truly incredible, and we support her all the way of her journey. Right now, we're busy working on some exciting residential projects, one being a very interesting penthouse apartment in the CBD in Cape Town, as well as a furniture collaboration with a well-known South African fashion designer. So yeah, really looking forward to those projects. And yeah, just all in all, I just encourage you all to support Mmabatho and to go and visit the Emazulweni restaurant. The food there is truly incredible, and the space just has a cool feel to it. And yeah, thank you all for the opportunity to explain the design a bit more to you, and wishing you all a lovely day further. Thank you.
Oh, Bianca, the food. Oh my word. I haven't dined in the restaurant itself, but when Mmabatho came in the first time for our food segment, she bought some sample dishes in with her, and I've never forgotten them. I mean, she bought in a little chicken liver and dark chocolate truffle. And I sort of, the concept was, gosh, that's going to be a challenge to my palate. It was the most beautiful thing I'd eaten in ages. And then a little chicken neck tartlet with the tiniest, most delicate little pearls of vinegar that popped in your mouth as you bit into it. It was just extraordinary food. So I can't wait to go in and check it out and see what they've done in terms of design to echo what she's doing on the plate. It's such an exciting sounding space, and it's wonderful to see her being recognized on so many levels.
Yeah, I agree. And I haven't actually eaten there, but I've looked at the menu, and I think it changes all the time, and it's very enticing. I saw there was a millie custard that appealed to me, made out of millies, and it's really so inventive and really a food art.
Absolutely.
And presented in this beautifully designed space. So I hope that listeners go and support Emma Zulueni restaurant.
Bianca, thanks so much. Lots of really interesting and diverse news today, and so much of it good news celebrating South African success, which is our favourite kind. Lovely to chat to you. Keep well in the meantime, Bianca Resnekov, and she is going to be standing in for me in late June, so you can expect to hear lots more about what's going on at Decorex and designers chatting on the show during that time. And I'll have to catch up on podcast, Bianca.